Okay, welcome everyone to this online workshop on performing your own monologue. So if you are accessing this, if you're watching this, it probably means that you finished writing your original monologue. So congratulations on reaching that first milestone. Now let's think about how you make a dramatic performance out of the words you've managed to craft. Okay, so first of all, what do we have to do? Now that we have to look at the words as an actor. Well, first thing you have to do is look at the monologue as a series of actions. What do I mean by this? Well, in any dramatic performance, right, we have to turn whatever we are performing into what we call units of action. Okay? A lot of theorists tell us, quite correctly, if you ask me, that everything that happens in drama is action, including the words of a monologue. That means every part of a monologue is action. It's not a speech. Just as dialogue is action, just as even stage directions, which are enacted on stage in some shape or form, are a form of action as well. So our job, now that we've turned to being actors rather than writers, is to conceptualize a monologue as a series of actions, okay? Different actions, different moments that will drive the action forward, tell the audience who our character is, and ultimately engage an audience from beginning to end. That's our new task. All right. So let's ask ourselves the central question. What is an action? Actions help an actor view the words of the monologue as drama rather than speech, as something dynamic, dramatic, and driven by tension, in other words. Composing actions is a highly subjective and personal process. There's no correct way to do it. Different actors will compose units of action in their own unique way. The thing to keep in mind is this, okay? The actions that you determine must make sense to you as an actor and give substance to the character you must now embody fully and completely. Hope that makes sense. So what we have to do is reimagine these words that we've written in monologue form as units of action. So a unit of action can be both long or short. It could actually be as short as one word. If you feel that one word is justified as a dramatic moment in itself. An action is always defined by a specific emotion, a specific attitude, or purpose. It can signal a change in tone, a change in the thought processes of your character. Okay? It layers the performance and deepens our understanding of character. Different units of action, therefore, capture shifts in the character's emotions, shifts in the character's attitude, or shifts in the character's purpose in saying what they do. Of course, motive, or objective never changes. That remains consistent in the background, but how they try to achieve those things may change. And that's what I mean by a change of purpose. The key here is to build towards a complete picture of character by acting out their story. Okay? Remember this monologue? I shared with you this monologue when I was talking about what it means to write a monologue in the briefing video, okay? But I'm just going to revisit this monologue or this beginning part of this monologue again in order to show you how an actor can break down the words of a monologue into units of action. And as I said, what I'm about to show you is not the model answer. Just because I wrote these words doesn't mean that I have a final say on how to perform them, because ultimately, How these words should be understood as action and understood as performance is up to the individual actors who must perform this role. Actor who must perform this role. Okay? So here is my understanding of this monologue when I translate it into actions that I can enact as an actor. Okay? So the colors don't mean anything. I'm just using different colors in order to signal where the changes occur. Okay? Just to get that out of the way. So the first action or unit of action that I decipher here is basically the first sentence, okay, of this monologue. Way back in primary school, my friends and I, we were really into this online game that became really massive. A lot of repetition here. And to me, this repetition signals the enthusiasm in the remembrance of this game. So as the character remembers the game, they start to remember and also feel the excitement of playing the game. So this is what this first unit is all about. So I will label it, give it a name that help me remember what it's all about, but something to do with reviving excitement about the game. Reviving enthusiasm for the game would be good. Okay? Now, the second sentence here, I feel is slightly different. And that's why I color-coded it differently here. Okay? This is, in my mind, a different unit of action. It was called Temple Run. So this is not about my enthusiasm for the game. It's about telling the audience something that they might not know. Like, I'm about to reveal to you this game so that you can also discover it for yourself, in a sense, right? So it's about building a sense of community with the audience. It was called Temple Run. I want you to feel excited, just like I felt excited discovering the game as well. Okay, slightly different motive, slightly different tone here. It's not just getting lost in my own excitement. It's about telling the audience something important. The third unit of action here is this. It was simple. There wasn't much to it, really. And here I'm trying to explain as the character that actually this game was quite simple and unremarkable in some ways, right? So I'm kind of underplaying the game. It wasn't complex. It wasn't magical in any way. It was quite simple, straightforward. Okay? And that's what I want to get across. It was simple. And that indicates that my experience, or the character's experience rather, and the experience of their friends made the game something more compelling, something more powerful. Okay? It's that personal connection that made the game remarkable. And that's kind of conveyed to us in the next unit of action. But normally words like but, because signals a change of tone and therefore a different kind of unit of action. Okay? So here we say, but it had us hooked, right? Even though it's simple, it was nevertheless compelling. It was exciting. It was enjoyable. It became a kind of obsession, right? So it had us hooked. Different feeling, different moment in the character's emotional life. And then it changes again, I feel. We played it every chance we got. Okay? We had us hooked. It had us hooked. And we played it every chance we got. I feel a slightly different emotions. And that's why I changed it to 2 units of action, even though originally I thought maybe I would just group it as 1. And if you see it as 1 unit of action, that's perfectly valid as well. What you need to do to justify your choice is to underscore these or this and this as 2 separate and distinct emotions, attitudes, different purpose that I can play on in a performance in a very particular kind of way, right? I have to show in my performance that this is the same or it's or they're underscored by different ideas. Okay. And then we change again. In the game, you were this little explorer who was running. Okay. Again, this is an explanation. And it seems a little bit more measured, a bit more direct, a bit more straightforward. I'm not trying to convey my excitement, my relationship to the game as a character. I'm just telling you things that you need to know as someone who might not be familiar with the game. Then the idea of running is repeated, but I color coded it differently here because I feel we're moving into a different kind of territory. Always running, running endlessly. You couldn't stop. This seems to be a different emotion. It doesn't seem to be about explaining the game anymore. It doesn't seem to be about excitement over the game either. It seems to convey anxiety or even maybe dread at the fact the game can never end. And then it moves into another area, which sounds a little bit more ominous, right? The game wouldn't let you. And I feel that this unit of action and this one, which seems to escalate it even further, seems to point to a sense of dread. It feels more ominous, okay? Because the character is seeing the parallel between the nature of the game and their life currently. Okay, so it's a kind of foreshadowing of how this character is going to relate this game to their current life. It's not going, the character is not going to say, the game makes me feel excited again about life because I used to be excited about the game when I was a child. It's not about reliving the excitement of childhood. But when I think back on the game and what the game was all about, I feel it represents my life. But now I see a darker quality. Okay? So this is foreshadowing. We don't know explicitly that they're going to connect this game to their life right now. But we feel darker emotions emerging. And that gives us a clue in regards to the direction of this monologue. So I could keep going and start to define how I've color-coded everything, but hopefully just this glimpse into how we define units of action, how we underscore strong emotions driving each unit of action kind of helps you understand, right? How we make words on a page drama. Okay? All right. Other key considerations as you shape your performance. Think about pace and how we might vary the pace in order to convey different things about the character, right? If you are conveying excitement of character, you might quicken the pace. Or anxiety, you might quicken the pace. If you want to convey a sense of awe or even dread, you might slow down the pace. If you're trying to be thoughtful, you might also slow down the pace. Okay, so think about how you might vary the pace in order to convey different emotions. Think about how you might also utilize pauses, because where you stop can emphasize the words you just spoke. Think about silence, even in a short monologue, because those unspoken moments can say so much in drama, okay? Sometimes in drama, things you don't say can be as powerful dramatically as what you actually say. So play with unspoken thoughts, unspoken ideas by really utilizing pauses and moments of silence. Think about emphasis. Place emphasis on words and phrases in order to underscore the meaning. Personal meaning to your characters, perhaps. Use emphasis to add layers and variety to your words, especially if you're dealing with things like repetition, which I talked about earlier. Okay? When you use words repeatedly, there is a need to make each repetition count. That means that you shouldn't say the words in a monologue the same way twice, okay? Especially in a short monologue, right? Make it count. Make it mean something more each time you repeat words. Sightlines, okay? Now, there is a need, even in a virtual context like the one we're using, to make eye contact with your audience. So when you look directly at the screen, right, it's a way of making direct eye contact. But even in a virtual setting, you can vary your sightlines. Look up, for example, when you're imploring higher powers like God or a God to intervene on your behalf. Look sideways if you want to, you know, intimate something to some part of the audience, but not necessarily to everyone, right? This is somewhat equivalent to what we call the Shakespearean aside, where we nudge, nudge, wink, wink with certain members of the audience in order to convey a brief moment, like a secret in brief, okay? So it's a brief moment of understanding with the audience, okay? So just change where you look, change the direction of and the momentum of your monologue simply by way of your sightlines, okay? Another point here, gestures. Now, in this kind of rectangle space we're dealing with here, you might not have much opportunity to incorporate many gestures into your performance, but incorporate what you can. Even if the gestures are not fully visible within the frame of the Zoom window, use them. Because even if they go completely unseen, right? These gestures are actually helping you embody and physicalize the characters better. In an online performance where the embodiment of characters is all the more challenging because you're working in a virtual space alone, all the more you have to use gestures, big gestures, to physicalize your character and make them more real to you. Okay? So never forgo the importance of gesture, even if they go unseen by your actual audience. Okay? And as you fine-tune your monologue performance, think about how the other participants have been asked to judge your performance. Okay? So these are the rubrics for performance. It's a very simple rubric, and it's about what kind of impact your monologue makes on them as an audience member. Okay? So they're looking at things like tone and intention. Do they understand the character? What they're trying to tell us? Do we understand that the character has emotional range and emotional depth? It's about clarity and conciseness. That, are they convinced that the monologue has used a variety of ways to convey this character in the time that they have, right? Do they vary the pace? Have they used the time effectively? Does the monologue tell a complete story without feeling rushed in any way? Very important. Am I engaged as an audience? Is another question they will ask themselves. Okay? So was this monologue able to fully engage me from the beginning to the very end? Okay? Do I understand as an audience member that the monologue achieved its desired effect? So think back on that 6-box template I got you to fill in earlier, right? And think about what you filled in terms of what you wanted to get across in this monologue. What was your purpose as a writer? What was the big idea? What was the message behind what I was trying to create? Did these words that I'm performing right now convey that idea to my audience? Okay? And finally, did the monologue showcase my strength as a performer? Okay? Did I embody the character? Did I bring out the unique qualities of the character? Did I bring out my strength as an actor? Okay? Ask yourself that as a final way of evaluating your character. Okay, so keep rehearsing, keep thinking about your character, ask other people to watch and evaluate your performance, and hopefully you'll have a chance as well to meet online with the participants to get actual feedback on a Zoom performance as well before we enter the final stage. Okay, so happy rehearsing. Keep in mind the criteria by which the audience is going to judge you, and think about what I've said about shaping your monologue so that it's clear for you as a performer to enact it. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon.